But Sushant Sareen, as Professor Ladwig says, it just sounds so ludicrous that anybody would think that they can use the Pakistan card against India, and the steps that Donald Trump is taking, whether it's on the H-1B visas or 100% pharma tax unless it's manufactured in America, or the Chabahar exemption that's been revoked, all of that would be levers of pressure that will make India accept Donald Trump's terms. On the contrary, will that not end up hardening India's stance, given America is proving to be so unreliable? And in that light, what are India's options?
I think from the Indian point of view, they are still trying to see whether they can tread this very treacherous ground, which has been prepared by the American administration now on how to tread this ground. So I think the dilemmas are going to be there for India. And the problem for India is going to be that if you give in to what the Trump administration is asking you, you are left with no feet to stand on. And if you don't, then there is a heavy price to be paid. So it's not an easy choice for any government in India to make at this point in time. And then, of course, the fact of the matter remains that it's not just whether the Americans are going to be pushing us against the wall and expecting us to succumb to whatever the pressure tactics they're doing. I think the rethink in India is completely there now. I don't see how any Indian government going forward, and it's not just about the Donald Trump administration, but as Walter was saying, that Trump in his first term first abused the Pakistanis and then became a fanboy of Imran Khan. Not that it led to anything substantial for the Americans. He could do something similar with India. But the fact is, will any responsible Indian administration ever trust the Americans again? We still had not gotten rid of the 1971 baggage. And now you have this happening. And there is no guarantee that going forward, you won't have another crazy or ludicrous kind of an administration like this one under J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. Incidentally, Walter might like to consider that Trump might have had South Asia specialists last time, but he's had people in his administration this time who are very well disposed towards India. And yet, look at the kind of policies they've been following against India. So either it's just Trump and some of the cronies surrounding him who are making all the policies, and he doesn't listen to a Tulsi Gabbard or a Marco Rubio or any of the other slightly more mature voices in his administration, or they're all on the same page. And going forward, how do you know similar people might not be in power tomorrow? So I think India really needs to start rethinking its strategic environment once again. And that whole dependence factor or that factor that, a close relationship with the Americans is the way forward. I don't see how any Indian can say that with any degree of confidence anymore.
So, you talk about what happened in 1971, just see what happened in 1998 after India's Pokhran nuclear tests. And Professor Ladwig, Sushant Sareen and I, we've actually discussed this in the past, that there's an entire generation that grew up being told Americans cannot be trusted. It's 25 years plus of effort that went in, that Indians had started trusting America again until Donald Trump behaved in this manner. So not only does that lack of trust come back into this relationship, including strategic relationship, this will also end up emboldening Pakistan, won't it, to carry out strikes, terror strikes against India, now that Pakistan would think it has three daddies, China, America and Saudi Arabia.
Well, look, the damage that Donald Trump is doing to the U.S.-India relationship is really catastrophic. And as both of you have said, this is just giving proof to all of the skeptics and all of those who have thought that the Americans could never be trusted. And it's really disheartening to see this play out. Whether or not Pakistan will be further emboldened by this, I still believe that the limits of the relationship between the U.S. and Pakistan are real. American interests in Pakistan are twofold. their nuclear weapons program and their links to terrorist groups. There is not an upside with respect to the U.S.-Pakistan relationship. They are not a dynamic, growing economy. They are not a major regional player. They're a containment exercise at best. Nobody wants to see that country spill over or melt down. I don't even think India wants to see that happen. So they have carried out strikes against India in the past with their own, of their own initiative. I think the China support is a much more significant factor, and I don't think the Americans would stand by and allow that to happen.
Sushant Sarin, is there an apprehension Pakistan could be emboldened with three daddies now, China, Saudi Arabia and the United States?
Gaurav, if you look at the kind of discourse in Pakistan, the deal with Saudi Arabia, for example, again, we don't know what exactly are the details of that deal. But the deal with Saudi Arabia was really, in a sense, Pakistan bringing the muscle and the Saudis bringing the money. But, the discourse inside Pakistan is that next time around, India will have to think 10 times because Saudi Arabia and Pakistan now have this defense deal, which means that the Pakistanis are seeking protection from Saudi Arabia rather than giving protection to Saudi Arabia. The whole logic is turned on its head because they think that with the Saudi-Pakistani defense deal, India's strategic calculations get far more complicated than what they already were. There was already the China factor that we had to consider and factor in. And along with it, now there is the Saudi factor. And with the Saudi factor could come a couple of other countries which are very closely aligned to the Saudi Arabians. So that is the Pakistani thinking. Now, whether that is the way it plays out or not is another matter altogether. But I find it rather ironic that here it was Pakistan supposed to take its muscle to protect Saudi Arabia, but the Pakistanis are depending upon Saudi money and Saudi business with India and Saudi money to Pakistan to protect it. So, it's a kind of a strange kind of a situation, which exactly would embolden the Pakistanis to try something funny. Not that they've already stopped. They're trying to do it in various ways. So I suppose we are going to be on the tender hooks for the foreseeable future.
Or will have to remain extremely aggressive to counter every threat and perhaps, if possible, preemptively carrying out strikes to target the enemy and destroy terror at source. Professor Ladwig and Sushant Sarin for joining me here on this part of that India First discussion. Many thanks.